Human beings have been trying to figure out the answers to things for countless thousands of years, at least when human beings stopped having to worry about killing things and having a shelter. In other words, when human beings actually had the wonderful freedom, really the most important freedom, arguably so, to think and figure out and reason things as to the nature of not only being but existence, and stop engaging in futile, ignorant belief systems and thinking about things logically. And of course, logic is taken too far when you engage in atomistic thought. And of course, this is the reason why there's physics and there's metaphysics. And if you're a stupid person, you think, and of course if you go to a bookstore, metaphysics is the New Age section. You know, the crystal rubbing, New Age, douchebag, garbage. Yeah. The original definition, of course, metaphysics, both Pythagorean, Aristotelian, and Platonic, was the study of ontology. And the only distinction between physics and metaphysics is they're inverse sides of the same coin. And last I recall, the coin is the same metal, not this particular coin, but we're all talking about the silver. We're talking about different sides of looking at the same ultimate reality. Yeah, physics, metaphysics, and ultimate reality would be the silver or the gold. And this is the distinction between the coin versus the coinage. Human stupidity regarding specifically metaphysical subjects. For example, I'm an expert in Pali, been translating, done a lot of translations, including paid-for translations of ancient Pali. And of course, the entire structure of earliest Buddhism, and of course the term Buddhism didn't exist until long after Gautama was cremated and buried. The term was actually called Brahmayana, the path of the absolute, Samyutta Nikaya 5.4, when he was asked what his teachings were. And of course it was nothing other than a Neo-Brahmanic movement of Advaita Vedantic thought regarding the principles within the original 13 Upanishads. And Buddhism was, of course, no rebellion against anything. It would be as ridiculous, to use a religious analogy, as to think that Jesus was anti-Jewish, insofar as the metaphysics of Judaism. And of course that's not the case at all. But that diverges off topic. Specifically, the entire structure of Buddhism rises or falls even by the heretic's own statement that on the definition of one word. That one word is the term anatta, anatman, or anatta. Wow, I had a brain fart. I haven't slept very well in a couple weeks. Anatta, combination of an plus atta for atman. And of course, Buddhists, and I've been debating these people now for 15 plus years. Actually longer than that. And they literally believe that Buddhism teaches that there is no soul. And this is, of course, completely ludicrous and ridiculous. When it comes to a belief system that's no different than modern quantum, I'm going to make a video about that shortly after this. But I mean, the heretics of quantum, they actually have a belief system, and they think that the math substantiates the theory, and of course it doesn't. Math has never explained anything. Math is about reproducible and accurate results. It has never explained anything. Math has never explained anything. But getting back to Buddhism, this term anatta, or anatman, there's 576 occurrences of it, and it's absolutely nowhere used to deny the soul. It is used as a via negativa, apophatic, i.e. neti, not this, methodology of objective negation leading to subjective synthesis. The term is never used in a pejorative fashion, stating that there is no soul. Specifically, it's asked in Samyutta Nikaya 3.196. It's amazing that I can remember so many tens of thousands of book and verse citations, which I literally can from the 5 Nikayas, the only pre-sectarian corpus of Buddhism. And of course you're actually having a debate on a religion, and I really can't stand religions because they're belief systems that are congregated to intellectual subverts, or basically weak-minded people. Because belief systems are always the magnet for weak minds. I mean, that's what they are. The most ignorant words ever said is by any human being who starts off a sentence with, I believe. It's like anything that falls after the I believe, I don't care. Whatever you say after the words I believe is some sort of ignorant, subjective BS that's either illogical, nonsensical, or both. But in Sem Unit K 3.196, it's asked what the term anatta means. And it said that rupa vedana sana sankhara vijnana anatta nam rupa anattiti. In other words, forms, feelings, i.e. the psychophysical, is not the soul. If I said A, B, C, X, Y, Z is not X, would I be therefore making an emphatic statement that there is no such thing as X? No, of course I wouldn't be. I'd be saying that this is not X and this is not X. And if you were a stupid fool, you would think, well, this guy says that there's no X. Like, no. Amazingly enough, as much as Westerners who have extremely retarded, unevolved minds when it comes to metaphysics, the ancient Indians, starting about the 2nd century CE, i.e. basically roughly 550 years after the death of Gautama, there was the rise of the Sarvastivadins, who became known as the Theravadins. By the way, if you want to know what the Theravadins are, they're all those yellow-robed monks wandering around India, Sri Lanka, Laos, Burma, Thailand. These were the people that, I don't say invented, but they actually came up with this heretical notion, because the only way you could actually separate out Buddhism from Advaita Vedanta or Upanishadic thought is this no-soul nonsense. If you actually believed a modern Buddhist who was an incredibly unintelligent and intellectually unevolved fool, and a person who has a brain that is metaphysically retarded as far as being able to think up things, you would come to the conclusion based upon these people's stupid books and writings, including the Abhidhamma, which are later sectarian commentaries on the Nikayas, that Buddhism is some sort of moralistic monism. It's about petting your dog and being kind to your neighbor and quieting your mind and basically trying to attempt spiritual suicide. That's all really modern Buddhism is spiritual suicide. I keep dropping this coin, sorry about that. Fundamentally, that is what it is. It's a type of spiritual suicide. Because ultimately, if you deny the soul, then the only thing that you could actually truly engage in is spiritual suicide. It's like, well, there's nirvana. Yeah, but there's nobody that actually attains it. And so, of course, the notion of trying to seek for that is completely illogical and nonsensical. If you actually deny the soul, then the notion of liberation carries no weight. The only thing that's actually said to be liberated is the chitta, or the nous, or the spiritus sanctum, and hence the Pali term suvimutta chittasa. Specifically, it also says nibbānam suvimutta chittasa. In other words, in English translation, that means nirvana is the thoroughly liberated nous, or chitta. Of course, in English, we don't have a distinction between mind or nous and consciousness. Mind and consciousness are all basically the same term in connotation and denotation in English, but not so in ancient Prakrit or Sanskrit. Anyway, modern Buddhists are just nihilistic spiritual suicide enthusiasts. And if you actually ever have a debate on them, what they'll do is they'll quote you a commentary from some latter-day sectarian heretic. It says, well, it says right here, so-and says, like, well, that's not doctrine. You know, like if, for example, since a lot of people don't understand this, if we were to have a debate about Christianity, for example, the ultimate reference would be the Bible. It's like, well, you know, Billy Graham said this, and it's like, I don't give a shit what Billy Graham said. Where the reference is, if we're going to have a debate on Christianity, all religious debates are sola scriptura, which means you have to go to the source. It's like, what does the original source say? It's kind of like what we do, and hopefully we don't do that today. I mean, because politicians are even worse today than they ever were. If you have a debate or a problem, you know, you go to the Bill of Rights, you go to the Constitution. You actually hire people like Supreme Court justices that are experts in what the Constitution both says and, you know, implies. So we actually have to go to the original source, and I've debated these people for right at 20 plus years, and they're so incredibly brain dead. It's like, you know, there's no passage speaking about no soul anywhere within doctrine, just the opposite. It says, atta vasarati, the soul is chiriyatir. The only thing that's actually called the light and called permanent, or anicca, is the atman. And of course, this is not to be confused with the psychophysical self. And the way that these heretics, these brain-dead, demonic mental midgets, will actually translate passages that contain the term Atman, which in Sanskrit is Atman, is they'll use it as a reflexive, where it's not called for, like, you yourself are your only refuge. Well, if you actually fall for that because you're intellectually, well, let's just say it, retarded, then you're saying that the refuge is yourself. It's kind of like saying, rely on yourself. And this is, of course, where this moralistic BS comes into play, where you think Buddhism is just a sick, sick morality. It's kind of like a spiritual morality. But I mean, yourself would be the reflexive self, i.e. the psychophysical. But the reflexive self of the psychophysical is called Maradhamma. It's literally called the Dharma of Mara, of evil. And is, of course, the reflexive self of forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and gross matter is evil, is Mara, is most vile, blah, 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 blah. So when you actually translate passages on the soul, meaning not the objective self, but the subjective ontological self, as like distinguished between a radio and the signal, right? You know, the radio would be the gross matter of the psychophysical. Of course, the consubstantiality, the animation of matter, of course, is referred to the consciousness, or vijnana. But anyway, getting to the heart of the matter, these people are so incredibly brain dead. It's beyond belief. And of course, all religions are like this. But I mean, there are, of course, crazy religions. It's like you could stick completely to what doctrine says. Like, well, it says, you know, it could be the most accurate translation on earth, and it's just stupid. Well, that's because most religions are stupid BS, of course. But the original article on Buddhism, the Five Nikayas, is extremely mystical and is extremely metaphysical, but all of this has been lost, started around the 2nd century CE, basically 200 AD, if you will. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And when the English-speaking people, when this New Age crap started, and it really started in Germany and England, when the New Age crap started well over like 2 centuries ago, they traveled to India, and when they wanted translations of the Pali, what they encountered were those yellow-robed, nihilistic, soul-denying Theravadins. Yeah? Yeah. And then they came back and they brought this Buddhism is morality BS. And that's actually made its way into America. And so now you have all these ritualistic morons burning incense, wearing fancy robes, sitting on zafus and zabatans, trying to blank out their mind in a type of spiritual suicide. It's completely ridiculous, and it's not what the original article taught. And humanity is just so intellectually unevolved. And that's regarding objective matters. When it comes to ontological or subjective matters, they're even way more stupid. Humanity is so intellectually unevolved, it is absolutely mind-blowing. It's just crotch-melting, unbelievable insanity how stupid humans are. And you could debate these people until the end of times, like boom, passage, boom, 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 boom. They're just completely brain dead. Their minds are completely closed off. And the reason is because they refuse to believe that they've believed silly, insane bullshit for years and years, if not decades. Well, I refuse to believe that. Why? I've just given you passage, passage, passage. I've shown that you're inconsistent, illogical, and contradictory. Yeah, but I refuse to believe that. Because my teacher said, well, you're a teacher. And this is the easiest way to destroy these people because they're so incredibly unintelligent. You will make a point to my... It's like, let me tell you something, girlfriend. You know, show me your teacher, and I will ask them bluntly one question. Do you believe your views and pathetic opinions supersede that of a doctrine? The original article. It'd kind of be like, and here's a perfect analogy. If you went up to any preacher who has like written some silly-ass little books on Christianity, right? You know, Pastor Joe Blow's views on Christianity. Like, excuse me, Mr. Pastor. You know, you got a church and a congregation. Do you think your views are either equal to or supersede that of the original doctrine in the Bible? And every one of them, even the most evil and stupid of them, will say, no. Well, obviously the Bible supersedes anything I say. Buddhists are completely the opposite. They literally think ass backwards, cart before the horse, upside down and inside out, brain turned off, full-on hardcore mental retardation, that latter-day commentary and BS Yeah, supersedes doctrine. This is where, and it's like I said, perfect analogy, where, for example, anyway, Christians are way more logical than Buddhists are. Just making an analogous reference, because, like I said, Billy Graham, who's dead now, he wrote several books, and I've never read them, and I don't ever going to read them. But I mean, you can ask any of these people. They got a huge congregation that says, "Excuse me, Mr. Pastor, Mr. Priest, Mr. Pope." I got no respect for the Pope, by the way. But if you asked any of these people, no matter how evil or stupid they are, it's like, which is superior? Your writings, your spew, and your little goofy-ass book, your little stupid doctrines, that you teach to the congregation on Sunday. Which is superior, that stuff of yours or like the Bible? And every one of them will say, well, of course, the Bible is, supersedes anything I feel or believe. Yeah, that's the point of reference. If there's actually a discussion, a point of contention regarding the metaphysics, the ontology of that belief system. But Buddhists are completely, like I said, ass backwards. They're incredibly, incredibly ignorant people. And I really do mean that, because I've debated them for decades. They're insanely ignorant people. I mean, just insanely ignorant. It's like, listen, I'm quoting you from the most original and the only pre-sectarian corpus, because the Nikayas are actually mentioned on the 13th edict of King Ashoka. They're guaranteed to predate 280 BCE, but they actually exist somewhere around 420 BCE, but before any sects manifested or rose up. Yeah? It's like, I'm quoting you the original and only pre-sectarian corpus here. And I'm right, and here's passage after passage, boom, 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 boom. They don't listen to you. It's like, well, my teacher said, and it's like, so you think your teacher's belief system or his little silly writings or whatever ignorant spew the guy said is equal to original doctrine? No, of course not. They're just impossible. Given the fact that there's nobody else on this earth that knows more about the term, literally, not egotistically, literally, nobody on earth knows more about that term, anatta, Sanskrit and Atman, than I do within Buddhist doctrine. Nobody, not a single person. I've written many articles on it. You think that like defeating these people would be easy. Well, actually defeating them is easy, but they're so closed off. They've literally walled themselves off inside of an echo chamber of their own blathering stupidity. It's not that I care to change their mind. What the hell some brain-dead fool thinks or believes is no concern of mine, but they're literally walled off from common sense, logic, and evidence, and on and on and on. They're just... This is one of the many countless reasons why belief systems are all evil. And, I'm not dissuading people from believing in what is not objectively knowable, because, the brightest minds who ever lived, Pythagoras, Plato, Plotinus, Numenius, Proclus, Syrianus, so on and so forth. I mean, these people studied what was not objectively knowable. They studied the metaphysics of true ontology. Non-objective ontology, ontology of non-gross matter, not the psychophysical ontology that we're speaking about, as talked about in Western so-called philosophy, which is not philosophy. But this is how hard it is to reach people, and I'm not trying to reach anybody when I was debating these idiots, is that they're so closed off. They are literally wrapped inside stupidity, and outside that's another wrapper of ignorance and just blathering stupidity. And they are literally brain dead to common sense, logic, citation, on and on and on and on. They are literally insulated in a bomb shelter 1,000 feet below ground with no key and no lock. They are unreachable. This is what I call terminal stupidity. Terminal stupidity. But getting back to the topic of Buddhism, it nowhere within doctrine denies the soul. This is complete blathering stupidity of the highest order. There's no citation enjoining soul denial. And yet you've got all these little yellow-robed goofballs, these little deranged goofballs running around Southeast Asia. And there's tons of them that are copies now, especially in England. There's all these Theravadin centers. Theravadins, like I said, all those yellow-robed monks, Southeast Asia, Burma, Laos, Ceylon. Those are all Theravadins. And Theravadins used to be called Sarvastivadins. Sarvastivada literally means this is all there is. This is all there is, ism. In other words, atomism, i.e. materialism. And then Buddhism, when you deny the soul, the only thing you're left with, is like, well, they believe in liberation. Yeah, but no one that actually is liberated. And we don't mean this that's liberated. Liberation, but nothing that attains it. Paramopia, which translated as ultimate bliss, but nothing that attains ultimate bliss. It's like, well, Nibbana paramopia, like nirvana is ultimate bliss. Well, yeah, but there's nobody that gets it. Well, they think nirvana is spiritual suicide. Like, to them, literally, no exaggeration, nirvana is a type of spiritual suicide where you take your non-existent soul and you flush it down a true existent toilet and you just like a fart in the wind. To them, that's what nirvana is. Like, just like a fart in the wind when everything is that's spiritual suicide. That, my girlfriend, is called nihilism. And that's what a modern Buddhist is. They are a moralistic, nihilistic materialist. But that's not what the original doctrine is. Because whatever you think of me, and I don't give a damn, I actually do know what the original actually says. Oh yes, I do. And with that note, I'm going to leave you. I hope you like these videos. If you do, you can click the link below. I love talking about Buddhists and how stupid they are because they are insanely stupid individuals. Insanely. It's not an understatement either. Thank you for watching.